Hello everyone, Gary Simon of DesignCourse.com. Today we have another design challenge review, number 24, and this was for designing the beer bottle logo / label. So we had a lot of good entries. I think we had like 28 or 29, something like that. And we even had one submission that featured Barack Obama. What can you say? Just before I get to the review, I wanted to mention real quickly that I've restructured DesignCourse.com so that now instead of having a subscription service called Design Course Premium, I've got rid of that completely, and now I'm just offering individual premium courses for a very low price, flat one-time price per course. So please head on over to DesignCourse.com, click on annotation wherever it's at in this video, and check those out. There's gonna be a lot more on the way. Plus the one that is up is called VizID. That's from Design Course Premium, and that's about 3 hours of video that shows you exactly how to design awesome logos like you're trying to do now. All right, so let's head on over to the desktop. Okay, here is the challenge thread, and I'm just gonna scroll past this. I'm just instructed to use a beer bottle template, and pretty much everyone did, with exception of one person who had an earlier version, and we'll get to them. But anyhow, here's the first submission. Okay, so from Pup Mike, and by the way, you can update your avatar. That now works, so it's not a broken image. Okay, so looking at this, there's several issues I would say, just at first glance. One issue is, I would say, the color theme. I really don't think this red and this yellow really work well together, along with the black. Another issue I would say is this band going around. I would say 9 times out of 10 or 19 out of 20 times you don't want to do this sort of thing. I would try to use something that's more like a flat straight line and not a gradient. So whenever it comes to logos, you want to stay away from the gradients. I also really just don't see too much of what I would call a logo in this. I mean, it's a layout with some type, but I don't see any type of identifiable symbol that really says, hey, I should remember this, or it's going to be easy to remember, because there's not enough going on to make it unique. So that's one of the things that I talk about in the visual identity design course. I'm going to spam you guys real quick. As mentioned in the introduction video, again, someone like you would hugely benefit from this, and it's only $15. All right, so check it out by clicking on video courses. All right, I will not spam you again. All right, so Broken Lord. All right, so I can't use it on the Mac. All right, so unfortunately we don't see a preview of this one. I would say when it comes to any major issues, I would just say it would be the tiny type down here, and also even if you scale this up to a more readable size, it looks like you used a different font. I mean, let me try to scroll up there. So yeah, this kind of seems almost a little bit of a serif font, and this is a very straightforward kind of like a Helvetica sans serif font. And generally speaking, you want to try to stick with just one type of font, or definitely don't mix serif and sans serif. I would try to stick with either or. Having said that, let me reset this to default. Fallen Angel, I like it's a unique concept, so I really don't have too many problems with this. This is, everything's simple. The colors work. I probably would have used this orange color right here for the text instead of this, because it just stands out more. It's a little bit easier to read. But other than that, good submission, so thanks for that. Okay, so Dan Designs. All right, so more on the type rather than just an image-based logo. You know what? I actually like this because it really feels like something you would see at a convenience store or a beer section. The type of the layout of the type right here. Let me focus on this one. Just is really fitting for a label, in my opinion. Now, you probably could have added just a couple more things to fill it out a little bit, but in terms of the layout, I really like it. The type, very good work here. I like the all capitalized type here with the letter spacing adjusted. All in all, very good. If there were one issue, I would say coming down here, used branch to symbolize the beer froth. I would say I would use maybe a little bit less branches, because it looks almost like beer, like some type of strange beer throat, because there's so many of them in there. I would simplify it a little bit. But having said that, it's a good concept and good design. Thanks for that submission. Okay, so Fernando. Okay, so we have several issues here. So the first thing I noticed are these vertical type layers, and it's kind of just throwing things off. I'm not exactly sure what exactly they're saying. It sounds like maybe just iterations of beer in different languages. I'm not really sure. So I would probably stay away from doing this in this type of manner, just because it's just a little bit confusing. Secondly, I would say for the logo, we have the wheat here, which is common on beer logos, which is fine. I would have preferred to have this maybe wrap around the globe a little bit better. Just looking here, kind of tilting my head sideways. Right now, it kind of seems just a little bit too separate. You know, we have this big globe up here. So that's an issue with proportionality. I would have scaled down the globe a little bit, maybe wrap the leaves around the globe. And I would say that's pretty much my only gripes with it. In terms of the concept itself, having an earth is a little bit glitched. So I would probably say there's an issue with being unique here as well. All right, so again, that's one of the things I talk about in my identity design course, is trying to come up with solid but simple and unique concepts. Okay, so Jonathan Gray. All right, so this is definitely falls in the category of, you know, trying to illustrate a concept of being simple. But I would say it's almost, let's see here, the company's called Brew here and the beer is called Blue Ice. So this would be kind of not relevant, just because what is the relevance of having the circle here? A big issue with it, aside from that, is the placement of it. Whenever you have type and then you have something added to the background, even if it's simple, like just, you know, a very simple circle here with one color, when you begin to take that circle and start to intersect all of these individual letters and in the type, it becomes complex and it becomes hard to read, and there's unnecessary clutter that's created from that. So I would stay away from trying to do this sort of thing. I think the next concept has that issue as well. Having said that, you definitely have the ideas of simplicity down and trying not to go too crazy. I would just say layout would probably be what you would benefit the most in terms of reorganizing this. So thanks for that submission. All right, so I don't even know how to, DJ Sav or something. Okay. So again, we have the issue with the type being overlaid on top of and intersecting a separate symbol. You know, there are some logos that can do this effectively, but this wouldn't be how you would do it, in my opinion. So I would definitely try to create some separation in some way. You know, there's a lot of ways to tackle it. You could move these left and move this over, or move green blossom over here, maybe down, center it, and then center the symbol up above. Now, the relevance of the symbol, I'm not exactly sure what is happening here. It seems like a vase with water, and so I'm not sure. Without you telling me what your intentions were, I can't really critique it too much. So I would just say I'm not exactly sure what's happening here. Having said that, though, you definitely have things that are going right for you in this. I like the font. I like the type. There's just a couple things with the layout and adjusting, you know, things that would take not very long to address that would make it definitely better. All right, so thanks for that. All right, Bobby. All right, so do you remember me? I don't know. Adobe Photoshop CS2, so they don't have smart object layers. So this is the best you could do. There's obviously an issue with the perspective, but I won't really critique that. The problem with this logo is there's nothing that's really making it unique. So I'd say one of the most important core tenets of an effective logo is it being unique. And unfortunately, it is relevant to have the Canadian Leafs, you know, line here because it's the Great Canadian, but there's nothing really unique about that. So people aren't going to remember it, and that's the goal of an effective logo design. So I would just try to come up with some way, shape, or form. You can still use a maple leaf, but do it in a very unique way instead of just slapping one on there multiple times. All right, so thanks for that submission. All right, so Brock Adora, presidential logger. Okay, very funny. But you know what? Actually, I like the layout. This definitely feels more like the type of logo you would expect to find on a label of a beer bottle. So definitely good in that regard. The type's good. I don't really have anything to critique other than you chose a crappy president. No, I'm just kidding. I don't like any presidents. I'm an anarchist. But anyhow, having said that, yeah, I really like this. In a real world scenario, you probably obviously have a more unique symbol, and then that would really complete it. Anyhow, thanks for that submission. The first entry here. One problem right off the bat, if I look at this, is there's not enough contrast. So color is an issue, contrast is an issue. I would either brighten this up, the actual design, or do something different with the label right here. Maybe get rid of it entirely and brighten this up. But looking at this, there's some issues design-wise. When it comes to these individual designs and these little these banners right here, and we have the tiny little kind of slashes going through. That's generally, if you're going to do that, you want to space them out a lot more, or a good decent amount, maybe by 400% more than what they currently are. Because then when you scale it down, they get fuzzy and they get lost. So you want to space things out a little bit more. And this is also applicable, to the red right here in the skull. There's not enough space. There's not enough white space in between these elements. All right, so having looked at that or addressed that issue, I would say there's also some issues with the type itself. We have amber up here. It's kind of smaller. We have red right here. It's slightly bigger. L down here. It's probably the same size as up here. Also, this type over here, you can barely even see it just because there's a contrast issue. When it comes to a logo design, you kind of want to have what's called a visual hierarchy. Again, this is something I talk about in this identity design course. And you're not really sure where to focus on. I mean, yeah, perhaps the skull in the middle, but you're not sure, you wouldn't be able to say, oh, this is called amber red L or red amber L. So you need to focus on trying to structure it in such a way that makes it a little bit easier to read and identify what the company name is. All right. Thanks for that submission, though. All right. This is kind of a joke, so don't take it too seriously. This is just... I'm going to zoom up here. I went down too far. The hell is it? Oh, there we go. It looks like there's some type of photoshopped, maybe this wasn't photoshopped, I'm not sure, some sad looking child on a beer bottle, a child on a beer alcohol product, sad sailor. All right, so of course I'm not going to take it too seriously, and I'm not going to really try to sit here and critique it, but that is funny, and thanks for taking your time to do that. That is funny. All right, so Seek. All right, I actually like this one. The simplicity factor is there. The type is good. I like how everything's kind of centered, following this nice general shape. Looks like you got rid of the label, which is fine. I kind of like this right here as well. So I don't really have too much to critique about this. The only thing very minor, would like to see maybe this stroke thickened up a little bit more so, just so it's a little bit more of an emphasis. It kind of seems a little bit weak in that regard. Other than that, I like it. Good job. All right, so Vizwash Media. All right, so this isn't bad. You definitely have the simplicity factor there. There's nothing, like bevels or shadows or gradients. So you definitely have that working in your favor. I would say in regards to the icon here, or the symbol rather, it seems a little bit, just a little bit unfilled out, or it seems like a little bit could be added in terms of maybe a little bit more detail in this area right here. It just kind of seems a little bit blank, and we probably could have added just a tad bit more to kind of fill it out and give it a little bit more character. Having said that, the Wilster up here, I'm not sure if that's really relevant since we already have the name right here, the Wilster beer, so it's a little bit redundant. But having said that, this isn't a bad attempt. So, pretty good entry. Thanks for that, especially your 17. All right, so here's my beer. Finesse means perfection in French. Okay. So one issue I see off the bat is there's a drop shadow. Looks like it was added to this text here, kind of falling this way, and it's white. unnecessary. Kind of makes it hard to read. So I would get rid of that shadow, and that would definitely improve on the simplicity factor. Looking at if you actually did this by hand, that's really good. I would say you definitely want to thicken the strokes up a bit. Because it almost gets lost. Your eyes are immediately drawn to this up here, when they probably should be a little bit more balanced towards this as well. And the way to do that would just be stroking to thicken up the strokes right here throughout the whole design. The final issue right here at the bottom is if you're gonna have wraparound text kind of warped on an arc, try to stick with capital, like making everything all capital, because you're already warping it this way. But then adding different title cases versus lower cases makes it hard to read, and it just looks better when it's all capitalized like this. So just a minor issue there. But thanks for the submission. All right, so this is probably one of my favorite concepts. Yes, it's very simple, but the symbol here is a combination of a snowflake, which is probably the most obvious, and then the wheat right here. So very clever. I like it. There's probably not too much I could say about this. The label itself would be a little bit more filled out if you added stuff like, the required crap that the state requires in terms of alcohol content and all that. But yeah, there's not too much I can say that's negative about this. So really good submission. Thanks for that. All right. I think this is just a repost by accident. Okay, and then the layout somehow got broken. Oh well. So Luch 444. Okay, so looking at this, we have an issue again with visual hierarchy. You're not exactly sure where to look first because kind of everything's arranged in the same sort of fashion. Prevalence isn't really given, or priority isn't really given to any one element. So that would be the biggest issue, I would say. So I would try to work on getting this, working on the hierarchy aspect, making something pop out, and there's so many different ways to do that. Again, I talk about it on my course here. Size, color, layout, these are all things that could definitely improve on giving things a visual hierarchy here. Having said that, again, I'm not too sure why the R here would be a different color. That kind of throws things off. You kind of see B, and then you see the R, so that's kind of a no-no in I would say 99.99% of the cases when it comes to logo design. And then it doesn't really look like there's any type of single identifiable symbol here. We just have a bunch of buckets or whatever those are, crates or barrels, and so you're not sure where the logo even is. So we try to work on simplifying things and giving things a visual hierarchy. Thanks for the submission, though. Okay, so let's see here. We're going to do so much more that I don't got to skip a credit for that. The hardest part was drawing the mouse. Time to buy a tablet. Okay. All right, so looking at this, I would say the biggest issue is probably too many strokes. There's a lot of strokes occurring here, and it's already kind of a complex layout because you have this B character, and then you have an outer stroke on it that's black, and then another stroke behind it that's white. I would try. I mean, there are some logos that can do this effectively, but I don't think this is done in that manner, unfortunately. I think maybe if you were going to use strokes, I would take this either the outer stroke and really make it thicker, or use this white stroke and made it a lot thicker. Otherwise, you have all these little lines together, and that just adds for clutter. Ignoring the strokes, well, actually not ignoring. Another issue with the type here, you have liquid B that's stroked, and then this one's not stroked, and it just kind of throws everything off. So it creates an issue of inconsistency. You want everything kind of to feel consistent. Now, I really don't have too much of a problem, though, mixing this type of font, the sans serif font, with this script font. I think they're different enough, and they're also, this is the primary logo name, this is the tagline, and that works fine. So you did a pretty good job there. I think if you just kind of simplified the design through working on these strokes or getting rid of them, I think the logo would definitely be good. One issue too is maybe the coloring. This almost gets lost in the background. even though there is a white stroke around it. But yeah, I think if you just made a couple of those updates, it would be a pretty effective logo. So thanks for that. Skull Crushed Beer. Okay. The symbolism is simple, so that's good. Nothing too crazy was done with it, so that's good. I would say I kind of almost want these over here, the wheat, kind of be maybe even worked into this somehow, so it makes it feel like it's more of a single symbol. Having said that, I kind of like the colors. Everything else you have going here, I would probably maybe try to work the skull a little bit closer to Crusher. In terms of everything else you have going on, like I said, it's simple, so it's good. This feels more of just a generalized label, though, than it is a logo. But then again, we are working with a label, so I can't really critique you too much on that portion. But yeah, having said that, the type is simple, it works. I really don't have anything else to say. Like I said, I would like to see maybe these wheat just worked into this a little bit more and things kind of move together, and that would bring everything together just a little bit more. But yeah, thanks for that entry. All right, so just add all the process sketching. Okay, let's see here. All right. Okay, so it's kind of hard to see this just because everything got enlarged big time. All right, so looking at this, one issue right away is, we have a lot of simple colors here. We got the flat green, black, this yellow here, and then we have this texturized area in the center. This creates an issue of inconsistency in terms of how you're applying in color. So I would definitely, if you're going to do one, stick with it, but don't mix them. This texturized feel here versus this flat feel here. Having said that, looking at this Pilsner beer label right here, there's not enough white space between the green portion right here at the bottom and the black. So I would definitely probably thicken up this green stroke here and center it a little bit better so it has room to breathe. Same thing down here, of course, as well. Now, there's also an issue with visual hierarchy as well in terms of the size of the type and the name. Like this Lorix Empire right here, this is almost lost. It seems secondary to the type of beer and the freshly brewed. It just, even though it's in the center, it just seems lost, unfortunately. Also, since 1999, I would definitely scale that down and bring more emphasis on the actual logo itself. Maybe even bring the crown up and extend out, each side over here. So I'd say just a few of those adjustments would definitely improve tenfold on this concept that you have going here. So thanks for that. All right, first post here. This is from Vizwash. All right, so froth beer. So that's kind of hard to see. And there's like a space R-O-T and then space H. That's hard to read, unfortunately. I'm going to assume that's what it is. It's not rot beer. It's froth beer. So I would definitely try to move these closer. And then, the symbolism here that you have, it's just a beer mug. Probably not, obviously it's relevant, but the issue is it unique? Is there something that's really going to make a person remember this? And unfortunately, I would say no. So I would really focus on trying to come up with a unique approach. Now, in terms of the simplicity, I like the little the circles here. I like the use of color, which is, you just want black and white or silver rather. I think it looks, you did a good job in that regard. So thanks for that submission. Column 101. All right, simple beer barrel to the bottle, branding, and logo design. Okay, so I actually like this. This is kind of cool. You can clearly see the barrel right here, which is a unique take since this is a bottle. And the type is good. Barrel to the bottle since 2015, Premium L. Yeah, there's really not too much I could really say that's negative about this. I would possibly maybe try to work with a colorized version. But having said that, that's, you didn't. So I think it would be cool to see this in color and maybe even make these things, this portion stand out, maybe through the use of color, like a wheat or kind of bright orange or something like that. Either way, though, good submission. Like it. All right, so here's another one. Oh, my design was supposed to look like this. Forgot to remove the black background. Okay, yeah, and you know what? I actually kind of like this better. It's kind of cool how that kind of fades off. All right, so Albabo. All right, so beer plus. And we have a design here. Issue here is the actual name doesn't stand out enough. So definitely want to increase that. And also, it kind of seems to, well, I'm not really sure what this is. This portion right here. It could be some sort of form of wheat. I'm not sure though, but it's very hard defined edges. And then combined with the lowercase BEER, which you see a lot of smooth curves and such, there's an issue of consistency there. So if you're going to use this type of design, I would use kind of like a bold, thick type of typeface for the beer and probably make it all capitalized as well. All right, so thanks for that submission. Okay, so George X. So this one is pretty cool. I mean, if you actually design this, and it didn't take it from somewhere, which I'm going to assume you didn't, I really like the line here. It gives, especially this work as well, really, really nice. I like that. The only possible issue, I'm not sure. Majestic line, the king of beers, that's not bad. I think maybe things are a little bit too cluttered down here. Maybe just work things up a little bit more, give this a little bit more room to breathe on its own. It'd be a little bit easier to read, but again, that's a minor gripe that I have. So yeah, this is one of the better entries. So yeah, thanks for that submission and taking the time to do that. All right, just a couple more. All right, so I wanted to add a lot more detail. The font is custom. The font is custom, that's good. All made from scratch. Okay. So that's really cool that this is definitely, if this is custom, very, very cool. I would say, though, you can kind of see how it just kind of gets lost, though, on this label. I would probably fill it with color. That way it sticks out much more than it is now. And so obviously you wanted to add more detail to like the label, and that would, that could definitely potentially bring it to the next level. But as this stands, that's really good. So thanks for that submission. All right, Peter. All right, try to keep it as simple as possible, which I think you did. Make it almost a mystery beer brand because it was released. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so yeah, the cool wavy pattern. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting take on it. That's a cool sort of texture, even though that's not a part of the logo. The premium typeface here, I would just say there's not enough in and of itself to make it its own logo. Assuming this isn't a custom typeface. If it is, you can kind of get away with that usually. But assuming this is not custom, which it probably isn't, you run into the issue of, if you're going to only have type or a word mark, as it's called, be your logo, then it better be a unique typeface. So in that respect, I would definitely add some type of symbolism to it or make it different somehow. But I do like the label design and how this, the yellow kind of encases the edges of the label here. So yeah, thanks for that. And that is it. All right, everyone. Yeah, again, thanks for the entries. Look out for a new challenge. It's going to be posted tomorrow. And remember, the new format is every week. Every Sunday night, you have to get your submission in. Monday, such as today, is a review day. And then Tuesday, look for a new video for a new design challenge. Now, remember, if you guys are really wanting to get better at logo design, please consider supporting the site and the channel by checking out the premium design course. This is, I believe it's nearly 3 hours long, where I take you through a bunch of different, or not a bunch, but 3 full identity design projects. So check out that by going to designcourse.com and you'll see them right here. I also released a responsive web design course as well. These are dirt cheap for what you get. At least that's my opinion. All right, talk to you later. Goodbye.